Saluton, old Chewy. So today I'm gonna probably work on the very start of the coding process for the game. Say hello to Cora. We might take her to, I picked her up outside when it was snowing, and I might take her to, Wayside Waves to get adopted because she does not seem very happy here. She does not like my other cats, and that makes me sad, but I think that she would be happier. She's very cute. She would get adopted quickly, I think. But I think she would be happier in like a one, just her in the home, like a family with no other pets. Because right now she's been pretty miserable this week, kind of stressed out and stuff, so. Uh, Sorry, Cora. I wish you were happy, but you have to get along with the other kitty cats. See, she's stressed. She doesn't want to hang out. Okay, so for the project toolkit votes, there are 3 patrons, but only 2 votes. So I'm gonna go ahead and use SFML. I'm sorry if that's not your choice. There's a couple reasons why I want to. One is that it is written with C++, so there's just going to be less memory management to do. And 2 is because I've worked with SDL quite a bit. My Kuko engine is using C++ and SDL and Lua, so I just figured I'd mix it up and do some SFML right now. Okay, so burn down. All of the issues still open. Who cares? Whatever. Did some art. Kind of tired of art today. Also, I have a busy day today, so it'll be easier to code. I'm trying to record this and then maybe edit it so I just have to cut it up rather than having to record and then dub over it, because maybe that'll make it easier to edit if I'm doing these every day or every other day. So let's get started. I'm talking to the internet. Download. I might have the libraries already in here. Nope. So I have the repository for the game. We'll make a source folder, and over here we're going to grab the latest version, or I could go through the package manager. Actually, it might already be installed, so let's check that. Okay, I actually do have SFML installed, so let's go to the resources just to show how to set it up in code blocks, or we can do, well, we're in Linux, so okay. Code blocks might not behave, so we might end up having to use Spacemacs, but we'll see. So close that for now. We have this source folder, new project. I always go with an empty project. Create a release and debug. There's actually a sample SFML project, I think, in code blocks, but we can also just use the sample code from here. So where is this starter code? It's right here. So create a main file for both release and debug, paste that in there, and then we have to set up the build options. And also let's use C++ 14, because sometimes I like using some of the newer features. We have that. What are our flags? We can set up the search directories in a second. Let's throw these in here. I could point these to the library directory. Let's see. No, that's not the path I want. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember where this stuff gets installed. I guess the easiest way would be to look here. User include, okay. So we'll take user include, that goes under compiler, and then oh, am I getting something backwards? User lib. Okay, so under linker, I believe, goes there. So let's see if that works. And it runs, and it runs! Yay! Okay, so we have some code. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement bits at a time, and so I'll explain it beforehand, I'll do the coding, and then when I edit, I'll speed that up, and then I'll explain some after. It's been a while since I've used SFML, so I'll probably have to be referencing this quite a bit. Actually, I like the API documentation also. And okay, we need a state manager, asset manager, language manager. Okay, well, let's look at this. So I don't like to put everything in main just like that. And the cats are not happy. I like to have a state manager, so that's actually what I'll start with here is an application wrapper. So there's a certain set of steps that we do to initialize SFML. Let me find that right here. So usually to start and close it, so I'm going to create a class to wrap that stuff and make that easier on me. And then after that, we'll work on a state manager. One thing I'm kind of split on is whether I should make a CPP file to go along with it. That's technically what you're supposed to do. It's kind of annoying. I understand why you do it, for just the way the compiler works. But sometimes I like just implementing stuff down here too. If I were using Spacemacs, this would be a little bit more automated. I wouldn't be doing this all manually, because I know there's ways to template this sort of thing, but I haven't done it before. Okay, so we're gonna just, do it the long way for now. Okay, so right now I need to look up what the setup function for a window is in SFML. Here it's being done through the constructor, and I am not doing it through the constructor because I am making it a member of this class, and I need to set it up after the fact. So let's go to the API documentation, look at classes, look at the render window, or even maybe just the window itself. So there's the constructor, we have set title, set visible, kind of hoping for a general setup. Okay, so it's the create function here is the equivalent. Adding some extra parameters in here so I can set the screen width and height to whatever and not have to hard code this. I'm also going to add member variables for this to reference. And we're going to default these to some values. And I like to leave a comment here just to remind myself that there is a default value. And then over here, we can also add these default values in. Actually, you know what? I can get rid of this second one here. Let's get rid of that. And let's just set the same things, but give it a default value. Let's see if that builds. Oh, I need to include that over here. Oops, I forgot my end if. Usually I write that at the same time. Also, I forgot some includes, so... Actually, since I'm using SFML and the standard template library, I tend to like to use just explicit namespacing, so I'll do that as well. If we were working with Python, there would be less of all of this to mess with. Okay, so that's the default code that was already in there. We're gonna just comment this out right now. Make an application. So what else do we have? While window is open, we can do something like that just to test it out. We'll also need something for that display. So we're going to use the clear function in our begin drawing, and we'll do the display when we're ending drawing. So what that will look like is we'll have some other stuff here, but we'll have app.begin drawing. All drawing routines can happen here, and then so stuff gets drawn here, and then at the end drawing it will finish drawing it to the screen. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background, but my husband's listening to music. So we'll have something to check this loop here. This is again just a wrapper. So we'll say while app.is running. It's a lot of the same code as right below in that example, but I just like to wrap this stuff up, and also this will be the main app that kind of overarches everything else. And we can also do event checking in here as well. Okay, so I've also wrapped this. I'm not going to use this sort of event for my keyboard input, because usually if this is like other events in other libraries, it's not going to be smooth. So this is good for checking if the window gets closed, or maybe even mouse movement, and we can add that in later, or dealing with the mouse. But not right now. I also like having an update function for all of my objects in the program, so we can put that before or after. I guess I like to put my updates before. So then that should at least give us a window and the ability to close it. Except I meant to make this update. So here's a window, and I can close it. Good job. So let's go ahead and just make a commit so that's easier to follow. Okay, let's ignore O files and anything in bin and object. Basic application wrapper window opens and draws, detects window close events. So it might be useful to go ahead and make like a little moving character and kind of get some of the keyboard stuff fleshed out. What I'm thinking is, if I kind of implement a very, very small part of the game in here, and then I pull everything into its own state and do a state manager, it'll be more clear what I'm doing ahead of time. So I might make a simple character and like just a box or something that you can walk around as and get keyboard input, and then also take care of detecting keyboard input. So let's work on a really simple shape, and I'll make some sort of object for that. So this is something I always kind of run into. I don't really like storing things in rectangles. I kind of prefer to have a separate XY width and height, or like an XY pair and a width and height pair, just because the naming is awkward here. Like, I'd just kind of rather have them separate, but I also don't want to have a vector and then use X for width and Y for height. So I guess this is okay for now. Later on we'll have to have another rectangle for the frame on the sprite sheet, but we don't need to do that right now. Okay, so to draw to the screen, we're going to need access to the window. So I'm going to add that in here. So just to be lazy, we will set up that shape here. Okay, this is where that gets annoying. Maybe... Okay, so now we have a circle. Let's add some keyboard input. Let me double check on what it wants for that. Okay, this is nice. So I don't have to declare a keyboard object. So some other languages I have to create a keyboard thing and check for it in some of their libraries, that is. But here it looks like I can just use this static keyboard thing. So let's try this out. Oh no, that was too fast. We also don't have a timer regulating anything. Does this have something in here to... Oh, here we go. In setting the frame rate. Nice! See, it's making it so much easier on me. I don't have to do as much work. This is great. Oh, this is so much better. I don't have to, like, create a timer object and then update the timer object and all of that stuff. So, yeah, cool. Let's close that. We'll add that. Basic game object keyboard movement. I'm, like, kind of excited now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do that stuff. That was so annoying. Oh my god. Okay. Alright. So I think it's time to get started on some managers, because we'll need a manager to keep track of assets, to keep track of states, basically anything you have multiples of. So we're going to create a state object and a state manager, which I can just start with just making the state object. So states, we'll make this, make it the game state. Actually, let's also make a state interface for what is expected to be in a state. So generally all my states have a setup, an update, and a draw. In C++, we got pure virtual functions. If you don't know what that is, and you want to learn more about C++, I would suggest checking out my C++ videos. They're a little bit old, but they're there and they cover the basics. Because it's a lot to explain if you don't have any background on C++. Boop. Okay. So that's what a state should include. Usually I like to also give, this should be public, I like to give the state a name, just for logging purposes. Okay, so what would change here is everything that is related to like say playing the game, or if I had a title state, the UI for the title screen, that sort of thing, everything there goes here. So I'm going to take my game object, can I cut and drag, move that over here, move this over here, because main will still handle going through and setting up the application, but I'm going to create my test character inside of my game state. Because if I have like the gameplay state, I don't need my character in the title state, I just need it in the game state, so that's where it goes. So up here, I am going to make a game state for now. Eventually this will be part of a state manager. And this character gets updated when the game state updates. So we'll just have the state update on its own. And this character will get drawn when the game state gets drawn. So then here we have state.draw, and we'll pass in that get window. And then over here, this uses the window. So this will be especially useful if I had like more than one of these. Maybe that looks more obvious as to why I would do that. Let me move the game object over here, and we can add a initial position, so initial x equals 0 and initial y equals 0. So in our game state, I'm going to set different x and y values here. We'll run that. It is unhappy because this is in the state folder. Like I said, the cats are not happy. Okay, now only one of them is drawing for some reason. I will add a logger in here later. That will do this a little better. Let's go ahead and give the game object a name as well. Okay, so this is still starting way up here, and it's not being set with a name, so I am missing something. Game state setup? Yep, we're missing this state setup. That would help. There we go. So I'm moving both of them with the same keyboard, but now I have two objects on the screen. So in the game state, you would have something like, you know, loading the map, displaying all the enemies, updating the enemies and the player to check for keyboard input, to let the enemy AI do its thing, and all of that. And then you'd have a title state with all the UI stuff, and you could have different UI states, like I usually have a help state, options state, the title state, and the game state, at least for something kind of small like this. So there we have a really simple game state. Get status, get add. Okay, now let's add the state manager. So state manager. Okay, so the state manager is basically a wrapper for all of the states inside. When we tell it to go to the title state or the game state or whatever, oh, this should be I state. Man, I'm gonna have to do some updates here because I'm good with pointers, but I forgot everything about new pointer types in C++11, so I will come back to this after I do some reading. Like there's auto pointer and shared pointer. I just want to know the specifics of each so I can make a better decision about what to use here. But for now, just plain pointers. Okay, so we're going to use this interface state and create all of the states we need. So for instance, right now we just have a game state, so I'm going to create a new that with a name. So I'm going to go ahead and add the name here. And even though this is a pure virtual function, I can implement a implementation of it and do that, so that over here we can call that. So that should pass through. New game state, game state. Also, I want to add something here. Okay, so we're creating a game state, and we're going to put that in our states map. So we can just use the key. I'm just going to say game state get name, and this is equal to game state. So we're creating it, we're allocating memory for it, so it'll keep sticking around even after this function is over, and we're going to point this map from its name to the state itself, and then whenever this updates, provided that you pass in a valid state name, we can say pointer current state is equal to whatever state with that name is there. And then everything else we can just go through this and say setup. Maybe I'll make a setup without that, so I kind of might work on the naming conventions here. Let me do this real quick. Update, draw, pass in the window. Okay, so I don't necessarily want to set up all of my states right away, because then they'll have maybe all this stuff that, you know, it's just whatever. Like, if it loads in the UI, I don't want to load in every single UI screen at the same time. So maybe I'll have a setup, which sets up the state to get ready to use. And I'll have an init just to do this name thing, just to kind of set up the object itself to be used within the program. So we're going to change this up. Oops, and this needs to be protected so that children classes can access it. So we're initializing it, but we're not setting this up. Also, we might also call setup multiple times, like if you end the game and then start a new game, we'll want to set it up again, but it'll still have the same state name. So maybe there could be a better naming convention for this, but I will just make a note that so ideally we should just be able to set up the manager. Or we could try to have a more consistent naming convention and maybe say this is initializing the manager. Anyway, we'll do that, and then instead of state.update, we'll do that. And so now I don't have to do this for the different states. I literally, anytime I want to change the state, which I have to do here, change state to game state, I can do that. We could have something like if some flag, if state. Actually, what I usually do is add a go-to state. So let's add ste string and go-to state. that should be empty at first, and heck, even when something's set up, that should probably still be empty. So let's add that in here again. Okay, so usually how I have this work is after the update we check for if the state has a go-to state set, which I'll also need to add in here. So if the current state has a go-to state set, it's not just an empty string, then we're ready to change the state. So state manager.change state and whatever that go-to state is. So ideally this would all be handled internally. It's not always great to have a string as a key because it's prone to having typos and stuff, but since this is internal, it should be okay. I can also add more error checking later, but that's something I'll probably do when I implement a logger. So we can say if our map dot find state name is the map end, then it's not found. Oops, this is supposed to be the parent class here, a pointer to the parent class, because we're going to just use it generically. Oh, I am not paying attention. There we go. Oops. Okay, so, well, there we go. I'm gonna get rid of those couts. I don't like. So over here, actually, I think it would be better to work on the asset manager while I'm working on the characters, because that's when I'm going to need that. So let's modify the issues. Trying to figure this out. Or like I might next week do fewer videos in order so that I can make higher quality videos, because right now if I'm trying to record footage every day, it's very hard to edit all of that every day. I mean, I can't really say this is exactly game programming for beginners, because I am making assumptions that you know some C++ if you're following this, or at least can follow along enough. So it's definitely not programming for absolute beginners, but you do get to watch me write a game, I guess. Side note, I might be teaching a after-school beginning game programming class for kids, and if I do that, I'll be making some probably stuff with Python and Pygame, meant for people who have never coded before, so there's that. But I don't know, this is the beginning of this project, this open source project, so I'm still not sure how these videos are gonna work. Welcome back to Messing Around with Graphics. Today I'm going to make these look less bad. So, I had a screenshot, but so I like my character art. I think it looked alright. I don't think it goes very well on this. Oh, what? Oh no, that was tiled. I meant to put this in GIMP. Let's take a screenshot of this real quick and put it in GIMP. And we'll throw that image in here and remove that white and see how they go together, which is not much. Also, she's very tall, though I probably need to make these walls taller to look correct. I don't know. Who knows? I'm not good at what I do, I suppose. But anyway, so I was thinking about what goes well with dark outline characters, in a game, and of course there's Link to the Past. So I kind of like this because then you don't have to texture the dang grass. And where's the castle? And the castle floors are simpler. This one's just straight blue. This one's cobblestone, but it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 things. And it still looks good. And this is just geometric diamond-y shape with simple carpet. So, you know what? I'm gonna do that. Let's be lazy and make the game art more simple. So first off, let's basically clean up these rugs so that they're all maybe just one color. Clean up these dots, you know, all this stuff. Gonna make it look less terrible. And let's replace this, and we can adjust it from there. And I will also need to update these bricks, but that looks a bit better. I think I can import images in here. Okay, so now we can check this out. I'm gonna put this up top. Remove stuff I don't need. Let's adjust this map also so that she does not look ginormous. So this is more of what I was thinking of originally, and she doesn't look too bad compared to this size. But I guess if you compared her to this wall, she would be really big. But over here, she just is mostly the height of the wall. Does this look any less strange? I guess she's not the height of the wall anymore. She's still very tall, but that's okay. And the play area is not too compressed. Like, you can still navigate. The rooms weren't that big in Venture. So this would take up one screen. You would basically be on one screen and then leave. So that might be okay. Alright, let's play around with the art some more. You know what? That's a little bit rough, but I kind of like that more. Like, lately, since I haven't been doing pixel art a whole lot, I've been kind of preferring doing hand-drawn styles for my games. That's maybe a little bit thick between the bricks, but actually, I don't think that's too bad looking. I could fix some of this stuff up. And like I can clearly see this pattern over here where it like dips down a lot and then back up, so. Okay, I like that quite a bit more. Of course, I could still use some more polish, and I can update everything else to kind of go with more of a kind of sort of pixel art but hand-drawn style with thick lines. But I need to go eat and get ready for more work, and then I guess I think I'm gonna go play D&D. I don't know if I'll have time in between to do more, but I'm gonna edit this and post this up, and we'll do some more tomorrow. Oops, that's not what I meant to hit. I meant to hit that one. So, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any suggestions for ways I should do these videos, or questions or comments or anything else. But yeah. Until next time, Gisla Revido!